Miss Margaret from Blossom, Texas. And speaking of large holes filled with nothing but a vacuum...
It's the Columbo podcast, episode number 63.
Welcome, everybody. He's a bit harsh.
He's a bit cheeky, isn't he?
Don't like that sort.
Although he is a hugely obnoxious man.
He is, not unlike yourself.
How are we?
Very well. Well, full of the cold, actually, but I'll pretend I'm very well because I say that every week.
How did you get that?
Oh, who knows? Perhaps one of my fellow podcasters sneezed at me last week for the entirety of the episode.
Last episode, I had the cold and I just, bit down, grinned and bared it, got on with it. No moaning, no complaining.
That's a dirty rotten lie. You just edited it yourself.
So you now have it, yeah, the lurgy.
That's it, the dreaded lurgy.
Yeah. Apart from that...
It's fine.
Enjoy this week's episode.
Yeah, I did. I liked it, but it kind of felt like there was something missing and I can't put my finger on it. And I'm hoping we might discover during the consideration this evening what it was.
For me, it was a welcome return to the tried and tested structure and format of the show.
Yeah, the last couple are a little bit off. Since No Time to Die, that was quite good, but the ones after that, a bit weird.
Say that again?
Oh, no, I'll get lynched if I say that again.
You may very well. Shall we crack on with this week's episode?
We always do.
Okay, let's have your summary.
In Butterflies and Shades of Grey, we meet controversial radio presenter Fielding Chase and his daughter Vicky, a producer on his show. When Gerry Winters, one of his investigators, urges Vicky to break from Fielding's shackles and try to make it as an author, Chase takes extreme steps to end this apparent threat to his established way of life. He shoots Winters dead, while apparently on the phone to him many miles away. Lieutenant Columbo is soon on the case and probing for inconsistencies. When the man Chase was trying to frame is found to have an airtight alibi, suspicion falls on Vicky. Unlike in previous cases, Chase fails to take Columbo's bait and insists on both Vicky's innocence and his own. With only one avenue left to explore, can the lieutenant pin the crime on Chase, or will the man in the ridiculous moustache evade justice?
Thank you, Ian. This is the second Gerry we've had in Columbo. I don't think we've had any Ians, have we?
Oh, I'm not certain. I've had some actors called Ian.
But no roles.
It's a good point. I don't remember one.
No, I think we would have remembered.
Or we might have noted it at the time, yeah. This one's spelled the right way.
So not only does this episode return us to the familiar format, we also have a now familiar opening shot.
Yes.
What is
it? LA skyline at night, some lively music, and a radio broadcast.
We get a brief audio clip of Fielding Chase.
I think it's basically a promo for his show, or maybe a trail that would run out earlier in the day.
And we then quickly head to a restaurant where an unhappy man, Gerry Winters, is talking on the phone and asking to be put through to Chase. Now, who is Chase?
Fielding Chase or Vicky Chase?
Fielding.
Fielding Chase is a radio presenter in the sort of Rush Limbaugh style of not a lot of knowledge but a lot of anger.
A lot of hot air.
Yeah.
A shock jock.
Yeah, not in the sort of risque sense, so more of a, permanent ball of rage. Everybody should be angry about everything. Fox News type of guy.
Yeah. Apparently, he was meant to be meeting Vicky, but she didn't show. So this is Gerry.
Yeah, she's an hour late, and Gerry goes back to his table after he's called to speak to a man called Lou.
Yeah, Lou is a literary agent.
Yeah, Vicky's written a book, and Jerry's trying to help her have it published.
Correct. She apparently can be the next Ayn Rand. Now, that immediately had me rooting for Fielding Chase.
I think that's fair.
We do not need any more Ayn Rand style books out there, so I'm glad this isn't going to be published.
Well, if that was the case, if it really was that type of book, you'd have thought her father might well have used his connections to find a local publisher.
Gerry is unhappy with Chase, Fielding Chase, but we find out that he is on the staff. He's in the employ of Fielding.
Yeah, he's an investigator for Fielding Chase's show.
And he needs a salary.
Apparently.
Lou then commiserates with Gerry about the hard breakup he's had with his partner Murray.
Yeah, I wasn't clear on that. Had Murray died or did they break up? But I assume they broke up. I think this is just really a clumsy way to point out that Gerry's gay.
Yeah, I think so. But we find out that he is now seeing an actor. I think we come to learn his name is Ted.
Yeah, short for Theodore.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always short for Theodore. Sometimes it's short for Edward.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it's Theodore. It's important trivia there, folks.
Mm-hmm. We head over to the radio studio. Gerry drives over and we see Chase performing his rather obvious and, I mentioned earlier, really sort of obnoxious right-wing act on the radio. And he notes Gerry speaking with his daughter, Victoria.
Yes, it's an interesting moment. He's talking on the show about ozone and the hole in the ozone layer being fictitious.
Yeah.
Essentially, it is the 1990s version of global warming denial.
Yeah, climate change they call it now.
Whatever you want to call it. Essentially, he is the guy that just says, nah.
Yeah, based on no scientific evidence, just his gut instinct, I think.
Yeah, it's just a declarative statement of fact based on his own instinct or the position that he thinks is going to be advantageous to him to adopt. Perhaps also the position that is supported by big finance on the same political side as his own.
I would suggest that's probably fairly accurate. Now, in the corridor, Gerry and Victoria argue. She tells him that Chase would not let her have the evening off, and he explains that he had set up a meeting with this important agent.
Yeah. She's upset initially that Gerry shared the book with anyone because it was for him alone to read.
Yeah, she doesn't have a lot of confidence, does she, in herself, I don't think.
Yeah, and also the fact that she specifically asked him this one thing and he ignored her.
But we understand that Gerry is attempting to get her a big break, and to, not just in terms of the book and her career, but in terms of the relationship with Chase, her father, who we are told on several occasions isn't her biological father. Quite harshly, he's told that actually.
Yeah, they're a bit cruel to the guy, I think. I mean, albeit he's not a nice guy in this episode, but it's not the kind of thing that you just kind of trample all over.
No.
Gerry is concerned that Chase is controlling Vicky's life. So he makes a big point of that, at which point Chase comes out the studio for a word with him.
He does, and an argument ensues. What happens? What's the result of this argument?
Well, ultimately Gerry gets fired. He's complaining that Chase sent him after a lead that he knew would come to nothing, wasting his time, and Chase reckons he plucked Gerry from the obscurity of the police. Although Gerry's response to that is witheringly sarcastic. He doesn't, I think, consider himself to have achieved any particular great status working as an investigator on the show.
We get the feeling, and it's backed up later, that this firing and hiring malarkey is not uncommon between the two of them. There is an antagonism there. And because you see that Gerry's not dreadfully upset when he's fired. I think he knows that it's a temporary arrangement.
Yeah, we don't ever get to see the good side of this, the hiring side or the reconciliation, so all we have to go on is that this is the final split.
We can mention before we go on that Fielding Chase was played by none other than the fantastic Mr. William Shatner.
No.
He was.
I didn't recognise him with that moustache.
Under a moustache. We've discussed him before. This is his second of two Columbo outings, his first in Fade In to Murder.
I think it might have been Evil Alternate Universe, Mr. Shatner.
Yep, it's like in Knight Rider, when there are a couple of episodes where there's a bad Michael Knight, and he just wears a moustache to show that he's
that
a
happens
bad
in
one.
Star Trek as well. They go to the mirror universe and Spock grows a goatee.
From the studio, we go to Chase's home, and he is on the phone discussing an upcoming interview he is having with a senator that he intends to tear to shreds on air.
Yeah, it's much like the preparation we do for our political podcast.
Yeah, certainly all we do is dig dirt.
That's it, we throw it in people's faces. Mm-hmm. And then we prepare for our podcast. Vicky shows up with a cup of tea, presumably some kind of fancy tea. It's a peace offering from Gerry.
Mm-hmm.
And Chase is not in the reconciling mood.
No. But she does go on to tell him about the book, and he pretends to be happy for her. And she's delighted with his apparent happiness.
Yeah, he's not being sincere at all here. He's conning her.
He is.
She tells him about the publisher that was lined up, and he says he has a personal connection at the top of that publishing house, and he can use it, and she can count on him. And he does go on to use it.
Gerry's at home.
Next morning.
Yes. He's on the phone to Lou, the agent, who has some bad news for him.
Yeah, the man that Chase influenced has declared that the book will not be published.
No, he hated it.
Yes.
But between them, they know that this has been at the behest of Chase.
Yeah, Fielding Chase has called Englander and said, "You will reject this novel, please, my friend," and that has been done.
Gerry will not be happy about that.
You wouldn't think so.
We next see Chase at a fundraiser, a speaking engagement.
Yeah, the Alfred Kentworth Realty.
And after making a speech, he is presented with a cheque for $25,000 to help continue his good work. I think it's to his foundation.
He has a foundation. That's a common thing in America. A lot of big sports stars have it as well. I think for some of them it's a tax dodge, but for others it's just a way.
No. It's foundations are all about charitable work.
For others it's a way to fund good causes. It's a very well received speech that he's made. It's a standing ovation in the room, just as Gerry shows up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Winters. And good afternoon.
That was quite a performance in there, Fielding. $25,000. Jeez. Last time I looked, you're about to barbecue those guys over an open fire. I guess money talks, huh?
If that's an accusation, my friend, be prepared to back it up in court.
Look, how those schmucks waste their money is their business. I want to talk about Vicky's book.
Look,
Look, I just talked to my friend in New York. You had her novel rejected.
that's a lie.
You want me to prove it? I'm a pretty good investigator, remember?
I'm warning you once, my friend. Stay away from things that are none of your business.
Yeah, Vicky is my business.
I think not. Her future is with me, not off pursuing some meaningless pipe dream of a literary career.
You know what your problem is, Fielding? You're a sick, possessive old man. You want her tied to you forever.
She's my child.
She's not your child. She's your foster daughter. And you want my opinion, your attitude towards her isn't exactly fatherly. I guess that must have hit pretty close to home, huh?
Stay away from her, Winters.
What are you gonna do, kill me?
Yes.
How? Talk me to death? Let me tell you something, old man. I'm not only gonna take you down professionally, I'm gonna take away Vicky as well. You count on it.
Was there a hint at something more sinister in terms of his relationship with Victoria?
No, I think, my impression was he was just suggesting that he puts his own needs and requirements ahead of hers, which is not fatherly. He wants to prevent her writing the book because he wants her around to produce his show.
Sure. Gerry was played by Jack Loffer. He has been in Mad Men, The Day After Tomorrow, NYPD Blue, LA Law, Murder, She Wrote, and Star Trek Into the Darkness.
Well, that was the most recent movie.
Was it?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Who was he?
I don't remember him. I presume he's just a crew guy, or maybe one of the people on Earth that are there. But it's the one with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Okay. We head back to the radio studio, and Victoria tells Chase that she will be leaving for New York with Gerry.
Just before we see her, though, there's a nice shot. It's a Columbo trope, almost, with a portrait of Chase up on the wall, which is something. It's not in his home, obviously, but we have seen that a few times in the past with villains.
Many
in
times.
Columbo, they've always got their own face somewhere nearby.
Mm-hmm. In fact, in the first episode that Shatner was in, Fade Into Murder, he had... Do you remember? He knocked out Daly, his assistant, and put him to... the alcoholic.
Yes.
Watching baseball, gives him a knockout drop, puts him in the guest room.
Yes.
In the guest room, there was a picture of himself in that room.
Oh, there you go. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I suppose it's a sign of the vanity that Columbo plays on.
Definitely. So Victoria knows that he sabotaged her book, and he denies it was sabotage for the wrong reasons. He says that he read the book and it wasn't her best work, so I think he's implying that she shouldn't be submitting something that can be improved upon.
Yeah, I don't believe for a second that he read the book.
No, of course he didn't.
And it's self-serving, the same as Gerry's identified it as. He's got no interest in her well-being. He just wants the things he wants.
He then attempts to deploy emotional blackmail on Victoria and brings up the past. But Vicky is irresolute. It's something she has to do. Now, what was the issues with the past that he brought up?
He talks about her mother.
Mm-hmm.
and how he's looked after her since her mother died, and he wants her to stay and be part of the future and inherit from him and take over from him, and she gets really emotional and then insists.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine him being very claustrophobic, can't you? Overwhelming.
I had difficulty with this relationship. I didn't understand. I mean, he presumably doesn't just want her around to produce his show.
No.
But it's never made explicit exactly what the issue is, why he can't let her live her own life.
He's not a likeable character, as we know.
Yeah.
No friends. He only has colleagues. He antagonises everyone. His job is to hurt people. Anyone he comes in contact with, he will use to his own ends. So let's assume that he doesn't have anyone.
Yeah, I suppose so. The other thing that I thought of was he let her mother go, and she went on to get married and have a child, and he didn't get her back.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he thinks if he lets Vicky go, he'll not see her again.
Yeah.
But they don't make that clear.
No.
It's made out to be this thing, he just wants her around because he likes having her around. It's convenient to him.
I think they're trying to be a little bit more subtle with it, aren't they? Just that we can read in or assume these things, and
Maybe.
yeah. We have an odd moment next. She goes to touch his face because they're upset. How does he react?
He grabs her hand and then kisses it.
Yeah, it's violent and then tender, but it's very odd. That's why I asked before about the relationship between the two of them.
Yeah. No, I don't know, it's a weird one. But
It's not healthy for sure.
yeah. He does look unhappy as she leaves, and he's going to make a phone call.
Who does he call?
Gerry.
No, Ghostbusters. Yes, Gerry.
Okay.
What does he say? Or what's the purpose of the call?
When we see both ends of this call, we're kind of flitting back and forth, and Chase denies when Gerry accuses him of calling to threaten further. He wants to work things out amicably. He thinks he can be helpful in a very non-specific way. And he wants Gerry to call him at home at 4 p.m. the next day.
Exactly 4 p.m. Call me at 4 p.m. Make sure you call me at 4 p.m.
That's it, and they would arrange to meet.
that evening or later that day.
He concedes that he can't win this argument, but he wants to salvage something.
So it's now the next day, and it's at Gerry's house, and we see Chase approach in a cap and sunglasses, and he creeps up to the house.
He's in disguise.
Yeah. Gerry is on the phone to Lou.
Yeah, the literary agent.
And he explains that he has broken up now with Ted.
He must be quite good friends with Lou, because he discusses all his breakups with him. He's heading to New York, so that's why he had to end that relationship.
Chase enters the house with a key, just as the clock strikes 4 p.m. And this reminds Gerry that he has to call Chase. So he hangs up the conversation with Lou, and he places the call as agreed.
Yes, and he gets the answer phone.
So what does Chase do here?
He waits a moment and then he picks up the extension phone in the den in Gerry's house, literally 10 yards from where Gerry is, and pretends he's answering the phone at home.
Yeah, this is another massively chancy.
All Gerry has to do is turn round or realise that the person speaking is in the room with him, which you do. Have you ever tried to speak to someone on the phone in the same room? You can hear that they're in the same room. Anyway.
And how does he know that no one else would be in the house at that point?
He doesn't. How does he know that Gerry would stand with his back to the door to make the call at all? He wasn't standing with his back to the door initially, was he?
No.
Anyway.
So what's happening is this. We've got Gerry on the phone to Chase, who he thinks is in his office or wherever.
But is instead in the next room.
Yes. Chase walks in, shoots him several times in the back.
That's it.
After shooting him, what does he do?
He wipes down the phone handset.
Before that, he continues on the call.
Yes, he acts like he heard the shots. Oh my goodness, what happened? And then
Hangs up.
hangs up the phone and cleans the phone handset. Well, he goes and checks on Gerry as well to check he's definitely dead. Cleans the phone. Well, I thought cleaned the phone handset, possibly. I think he must have cleaned the handset because it doesn't make sense for that one to have makeup on it. But then when he wipes the gun with his handkerchief, he's wiping stage makeup onto the gun.
Yes, pancake.
Yeah, we learn this later on.
Yeah. Again, that's another nod back, isn't it?
And that's it. And then of course.
Fade in, that was the whole...
The previous Shatner episode.
Yeah.
And then he throws the gun inside in the room, which makes no sense. Why would a killer do that?
What, leave the gun?
Yeah.
Pros would do that.
Would they?
Yes.
Why?
Because they have got an unregistered gun. It's not their gun.
Yeah, you can't tie it to them.
Can't tie it to them. The last thing you want to do is leave a trail. Bring it with you. If you get caught with that gun on you, or near you, or anywhere else. So a pro actually would walk in, kill the person, drop the gun, leave it, because the gun, you do not want to have the gun anywhere on you anytime, any longer than...
Assuming it can't be traced.
Yeah, but I mean, again, pros are buying these things, or get hold of these things, that's not their gun.
I'll bow to your knowledge.
Yep, that's what you would do. That's what I would do.
If I had killed her.
Yeah, I mean her. It was him and her.
Yes. And they shouldn't have been doing it.
Well, not in that position.
Moving on. As Chase leaves the building, he wipes more things with his handkerchief, including the doorknob.
Mm-hmm.
And then he puts the handkerchief in a rose bush and returns to his car and drives off.
He does. As he's driving off, what does he do?
He phones 911 from the car phone, which I'm not sure, is it a proper cell phone or is it just a car phone?
Cell phone.
They refer to it as both things.
Hmm.
But I think it's just an actual cell phone that's in his car.
Yeah.
For convenience because of the bulk.
Mm-hmm.
So he calls from that and reports the crime and says he's on his way there.
We return back to Gerry's house and it's now the crime scene. Chase is waiting for Columbo, the senior lieutenant, the homicide detective.
Yeah, well, he arrives and the police have already set up this sort of cordon and he insists he's going to speak to the homicide cop. He's not going back even though they know who he is. Yeah,
Columbo arrives late and the car is backfiring, isn't it?
Well, they kind of overplayed that in this episode for me. It backfired constantly, as
Yeah.
if it's on its last legs.
And then we have a trope as Columbo and Chase walk by each other and Chase does not recognise him as a likely candidate to be the homicide lieutenant.
Yeah, and Columbo doesn't know who Chase is, as we find out. And there's a little strange moment with Columbo.
What's that?
Well, he goes to light the end of his cigar, but it's finished, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So he chucks it aside, and then he comes back and picks it up again.
Yeah, perhaps he, at this stage in his career, he realises that he can't be throwing around
Evidence.
or can't be throwing around items at a crime scene.
Yeah,
It's nonsense. Eggshells and what have you.
that's it. He goes inside and speaks to a colleague who delivers one of the corniest lines in Columbo history.
What's that?
We don't have an eyewitness, we have an ear witness.
Yeah.
I just wanted to actually pour acid in my ears at that point.
The other shocking thing in that scene is that we discover that Gerry apparently was only 31.
No.
Yeah. IMDb doesn't have his date of birth, so I can't check to see, but there was no way that actor was 31.
He's lived a long 31 years if he was.
In a kennel.
That's a bit harsh. What if he's listening to this right now? You're hurting his feelings.
Yeah, but he may have slowed down the ageing process. He may only look now about 42.
He might do.
Yeah. But he was no 31, I'll tell you that.
Well, that's a bit like Columbo Goes to College when you had 34-year-olds playing 19.
That's true. They then discuss the prevalence and the risks of these newfangled cellular phones, and they talk about brain tumours and all sorts.
I find that quite amusing now that we've proven that cell phones don't cause cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Although there are still some people who think they do.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, this was a genuine fear.
Yeah.
They're taking it fairly lightly.
Well, I suppose there was talk of, Columbo mentions later, people had tumours growing in their ears and stuff like that. I don't think that was scientifically backed up at any stage.
No. So outside, Columbo waits for Chase, who is on the phone discussing possible motive with, I don't know, a colleague?
Yeah. I mean, I did enjoy, just before that, I enjoyed Columbo's excitement at the prospect of talking to Mrs. Columbo from his car.
Yes.
It's the kind of thing now that we're like, no, I'm not answering the phone in the car, leave me alone, I'm driving. Yes, he goes to speak to Chase, who doesn't realise he's a cop, fobs him off a little bit, finishes his call. And
Columbo, during the call, Columbo overhears him suggesting that it could have been to do with the investigation that Chase had him involved in.
yeah, he does hear that. Chase then tells Columbo the whole story, having worked out who he is. And the two potential leads are an ongoing investigation or a jealous boyfriend.
Yeah. Now, this must be the first time that Columbo does not immediately reveal that he and Mrs. C are massive fans.
Yeah, he appears not to know who Fielding Chase is.
That'd be odd. Even if he didn't enjoy his show, if he's as big as they say,
That's true.
you would recognise the name.
You probably would. But Columbo says he doesn't really listen to the radio anymore. Must be into podcasting.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
You get a bit of blatant homophobia from Fielding Chase at this stage.
We do. Unfortunately, Columbo doesn't buy any of this. Explain the situation.
Yeah, well, they're talking about the potential for a jealous boyfriend shooting Gerry, and Fielding Chase says those people do have a reputation for unusual behaviour.
Murder.
But Columbo quite rightly notes that all people have a reputation for unusual behaviour, and in his experience, mostly it's husbands killing wives,
or wives killing
husbands. Yeah.
So fair play to Columbo, and fair play to the writers in terms of, they're making this guy, Fielding Chase, out to be a horrible, obnoxious creature. So this attitude is there to support that.
It's fitting.
Yes. Chase goes on to tell Columbo that he has files which might be of use, and he says that he'll wait around for Columbo to finish and take him to his house so that he can give them to Columbo. Columbo seems quite happy with this offer.
Yeah, my eyes kind of glazed over every time they mentioned these files. To be honest, in this episode, you might find that in future scenes as well.
Columbo then has a lovely one more thing. Do you remember it?
Yeah, he asks Chase if he'd been in the house since the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And Chase says no, he hasn't. He wasn't allowed. And Columbo wants to know, how does Chase know for sure that Gerry was shot in the back if he's not been in?
Because he mentioned that earlier in this scene.
He does.
And it's a fantastic question, but I have to say, this is the first of a couple of times in this episode where Chase is asked a difficult question but comes back with a reasonable answer.
Well, he doesn't quite handle it the way I would. He doesn't quite have the humility to say, oh, I just assumed. It's more like, I am right because of this.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
His level of certainty is probably high enough to pique Columbo's interest, even if he's got a fairly believable response.
Typical of the typical Columbo killer. But I think it's fair enough in terms of the actual logic behind it.
The content is fine. He suggests that if Gerry had seen the shooter, he would have mentioned something on the phone.
Yes.
He does say it in quite a sarcastic voice as well.
Columbo leaves, but I think we see there's a glimpse of Chase and we realise that he knows he got out of jail there, or he thinks he got out of jail there.
Yeah, definitely. And they both drive off separately, but going to one place.
Chase is home. Columbo follows him back to his massive spread. And as Columbo is given some of these files, who returns?
Well, Vicky pulls up in her black BMW and comes out and drops her keys, which is critical to the case.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know right now what's happened, but she's noticed that one of her keys is missing. She picks them up again and heads inside, and she's upset because she's heard what happened to Gerry on the news.
Chase explains to Victoria who Columbo is, why he's there, and he asks her to check the answer machine whilst he goes and gets himself a stiff drink.
That's a bit sneaky.
They then all hear the call, the murder call, and Victoria obviously is distressed and she runs out of the room.
Yeah, she storms out, presumably up to her bedroom.
Hmm.
I don't know if you storm off to your bedroom at 25 years old, but if you do, that's what she did. And Chase talks to Columbo.
Yeah, he's actually fairly happy with what he has heard.
Girl, I am such an idiot.
This is incredible. Shall we have the murder on tape?
I was outside when I heard the phone ringing. By the time I got inside, the machine had already started to record. Lieutenant, please forgive me. I must go be with my daughter.
Oh, I understand, sir. You realize I'm going to have to take the tape?
Yes, of course.
There might be something on here that will give us a lead to the killer. I don't know just what.
Lieutenant, I want this person, this fiend, brought to justice, no matter what it costs. I'm prepared to offer a substantial reward.
That's very generous of you, sir. It may not be necessary.
If there's anything I can do, anything at all, I'm at your disposal 24 hours a day.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Once again, my deepest sympathies on your loss.
Thank you very much.
Chase then goes to console Vicky. He promises her he's going to see the perpetrator brought to justice. And then he decides it's an appropriate moment to emotionally manipulate her.
Yeah. He says that he still needs her. He needs her now more than ever.
Yeah, he's just as devastated as she is, so she should feel like she's entitled to be more sad than him, even though it's her friend that he hated that's been killed. And he needs her. Nothing to do with what she needs. He needs her more than ever. So she agrees to stay.
Job done.
For now.
We heard in that clip there the inn that Columbo always looks for when Chase invites him to use him as a resource. Yeah. 24 hours a day, my door's open. Columbo's rubbing his little hands at that point, isn't he? Thinking, yes. It's like Columbo waits for the vampire. You have to be invited in.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Did you recognise Victoria Chase?
Yes.
From where?
Murder, Smoke and Shadows.
Yep. We've discussed her before. She played Ruthie.
Ruth Jernigan.
Yeah. Quite good.
I thought it was a masterful performance.
Really?
Well, I suppose it's all in context, but better than some co-stars that we've seen.
Yeah, no, she was very good. We head off to a funeral parlour next. Now, were you expecting shenanigans here?
Well, I thought, for starters, how popular was Gerry that you have to have his body lying in state?
Yeah.
We've only seen this once before in Dagger.
No, this does happen.
In Columbo, we've seen it once before.
No, this is a common...
Open casket?
Yeah.
Nah, I've never heard of people who are just average people getting this treatment.
I've been to several.
Why would you want to see a dead body?
Say goodbye. I've been to 2 or 3.
It's like a grotesque taxidermy exhibition.
Yeah. I don't really like it myself, but no, been to 2 or 3 like that.
I would not attend one of those.
Have to go up and lick the body.
But you can.
If you want.
That's a bit creepy.
Very.
It would be better. I mean, I would go to one if they were wrapped in bandages like a mummy.
Yeah.
And embalmed.
That'd be quite good.
That would be a different matter. I would go to that.
Get a picture taken.
Yeah.
Selfie.
If you could pose them, that would also be good.
Yeah. Half an hour and you can do what you like.
I'm being disrespectful, but only to, non-specific dead people, not anyone that listeners may care about.
Characters in Columbo.
Obviously, if it was your friends and loved ones, I would never do that.
No, why would you be there if it was their friends and loved ones?
I'm just saying if it just happened to them that I came across.
Why would you coming across other people's friends and loved ones?
Well, people know people, you never know.
You're as odd as Columbo when it comes to these things by the sounds of it. So he turns up and Victoria notes it's rather unorthodox for the police investigator to be at the service.
Yeah, I like this, but he says he's on duty and he needs to talk to her. Is there somewhere they can go? And she takes it behind a curtain. And he immediately stops whispering as if the curtain is soundproof.
But here's the thing again, he's doing this. This is terrible behaviour. He's got to talk to her, right? This is the. Why can't he wait until she's finished for the evening?
Because she's vulnerable and she'll reveal more information.
He doesn't suspect her to be the criminal.
Oh, he does share a key.
No, he doesn't at this point. He knows exactly who the criminal is. No, this is uncalled for. Again, wait Columbo for a few hours. Wait until the next day. Or at least wait until she goes to leave. Do not go into the funeral parlour and start using it as an interview room.
Well, maybe he just feels he'll get more honest answers from someone who is emotionally exposed.
Yes, that's my point. It's not acceptable.
Depends. Some people might think it is. End result, Machiavellian approach.
Columbo has a problem.
He thinks the killer must be a friend.
Why?
Because there are no signs of forced entry at Gerry's place.
Big leaps in this scene, isn't there?
Yeah, he thinks he could have let them in and then immediately rules that out and decides they must have had a key.
Yeah, why did they rule out being let in?
Well, it wasn't really clear.
No. We know that most, and in fact in all Columbo episodes, the killer is someone that the victim knows.
Yeah, in fact most murders.
So, being allowed in is not something that you can immediately rule out.
Absolutely.
Apparently phone records show that there have been lots of calls to Ted.
Yeah, Columbo's a little bit sheepish around this topic. He doesn't want to come out and accuse somebody of being a homosexual despite the fact they were not living that life in secret. But Vicky is sympathetic and explains to him, yes, Ted and Gerry were lovers and Ted would have a key, but she also has a key. There is an important revelation.
Yeah, she tells Columbo that she thought that she had lost her key, but that it was on her keyring in the morning. So it disappeared as a vanishing and reappearing key.
We've had this before as well, haven't we?
I'm
trying to think, did Lady in Waiting have it? No, it was her house.
Making a Murderer. Wasn't there for weeks and that suddenly appeared.
It's a slightly different thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember the episode. I'm sure we've had keys that were jimmied off a It might have been Lady in Waiting. Well, the guy slept.
It was.
Yes.
Yes, Beth Chadwick and
Yes.
Leslie Nielsen.
It wasn't Leslie Nielsen's keys. It was her
Bryce.
father's keys.
Brother.
Okay.
Bryce
Yes.
Chadwick.
Yes. And it was while he slept, she removed the key from his.
Yeah, so that he could not get in the front door and had to get in the patio door.
Yeah.
In any case, she provides an alibi. She was working at the studio.
Yeah, it's not really an alibi.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it's an alibi, it's just not a good one.
Why?
Because there's no way to verify that.
At this point, it's a fine alibi. If you're saying I was at work, now unless you work as a security guard on your own, if you're working in a radio station, it's fine, I think, to assume that it's a decent alibi.
Well, maybe, but when Columbo looks into it, he'll find there was nobody else there.
I don't believe that at all. I believe that he's only using that to get at Chase.
Maybe. She was prepping for the interview with Senator Madison, and this is really where Columbo finds out how big Chase is in terms of his profile.
And then we have one more thing. He asks her if she usually works weekends, and how does she respond?
Well, she doesn't, and it wasn't her idea.
Whose idea was it?
Fielding Chase had insisted on this occasion that she do additional work, and I think Columbo now has 2 or 3 arrows pointing in the same direction.
So Columbo heads over to a TV studio. Now, we've seen him in this environment before, and we get similar outcomes.
Oh, always. They think he's a homeless person. Did this happen in Requiem? Something like that? Anyway, he ruins the shot, and once they find out he's police, they all calm down.
He speaks with Ted. That's who he's there to chat to. He's in makeup, and produces the handkerchief that was found with the pancake makeup on it.
Yeah, Ted doesn't recognise the handkerchief itself, but he can identify the marks as being that type of makeup.
He bluntly denies any involvement in the crime, and he is able to provide a watertight alibi.
Yeah, I mean, Columbo mentions that this type of makeup was on both the doorknob and the gun at the scene. And Ted accepts that he'd only been dating Gerry for 9 days, which makes the start of the episode seem a little bit unusual.
Why?
They'd only known each other for a week. The way he talked about the relationship, it made it sound like it'd been longer.
No, that wasn't. Murray was the one.
He broke up with Murray and he was seeing Ted, but I just thought that the way that Ted was mentioned made it seem like it had been more than a week.
No, I think it was the opposite. I think he was distraught about Murray, and I think Lou asks him about Ted, and he says, "Ah, well, he was quite casual about it."
Another thing is, how come Ted's got a key and they've only gone out for 9 days?
They may have been friends before becoming lovers.
Maybe. We'll take that as the story. In any event,
What's his alibi?
he was at a department store at the time of the killing, and there were a couple of 100 other people there who can verify. Now, that doesn't sound too promising. Columbo's going to have to track down folk who were shopping at the time. Does anyone remember he was there?
He also mentions that he was with one of his co-stars.
Yeah, which clears it up. They were signing autographs.
We head over to a restaurant.
Chase is meeting with an actress called Dee Dee Ross and someone who I assume is her handler.
Yes, her manager. She's a young female star. And Chase questions her about an affair, an apparent affair, with a senator that produced a child when she was just 17.
Yeah, and she lies and says it was not the senator's child. Actually, it's not confirmed she's lying.
No, I don't
but
think
that
she.
was my
I
impression.
do not think she is lying.
I
I
didn't
think
believe her for a second.
I do, because when he is questioned on air and he's no knowledge of this question, he says exactly the same thing. This is not what you think. I was friends with her mother, or her mother worked for me.
You don't think that she contacted him in between times?
No, he wouldn't go on the show. He was ill prepared for this. If he knew this was coming up, he would not go on the show, or he would not have been so startled. So, no, without a doubt, I think this is genuine. I think this is again to augment the perception that Chase is a despicable individual who will happily tell lies, who will ruin lives to further his own career, his own position. I entirely believe Dee Dee in this case.
Yeah, there's no smoke without fire, though.
She immediately jumps to, what do you mean there's no smoke without fire? Away you go. Something like that garbage. Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, no, I think we can agree that it's not the senator's child.
But, sorry, just on that, I didn't really get it anyway. She sort of begs him not to publicise this story. She says it'll ruin her career. I don't think. What, an actress had a child?
I know, and it was adopted?
that wouldn't ruin your career in the
No.
90s.
I don't think so.
No.
But she might need something to blame for her career being ruined if she's a borderline actress, so she's not working regularly. Anyway, Fielding assures her he won't go public with the story. And then as soon as she leaves, he calls Collier to say he will.
Yeah.
Who's Collier?
PR guy.
He's the one that phones into the show later on.
Yes. Like just someone he uses in these situations.
Yeah. Almost immediately, Columbo appears at the restaurant. It's quite convenient.
We have another mini trope as we have a snooty waiter.
Yep, we've seen a few of those. Columbo makes an order on this occasion.
Yeah, he does. What does he take?
Tea with honey.
They then discuss the phone.
They do.
Columbo's trying to get himself up to date with technology.
Yeah, they discuss the cancer risk. Columbo wants to know what it costs. He apologises for not knowing who Chase was in the
but
first place.
Chase just wants to get down to business.
But Columbo won't let him.
No, he insists in explaining that all his family are big fans of his show, including his nephew Dominic.
His cousin Dominic.
Is that a cousin?
Yeah.
Okay, one of them.
I don't think he's real.
No. He gets an autograph for him, doesn't he?
Yeah, and you wonder what's the evidential value of that, but I think it was just to distract him.
Columbo goes on to explain that, unfortunately, the tape recording, did not provide any useful clues. And he then tries to nicely trick Chase by stating that they found the hanky. But Chase plays dumb quite well.
Yep, he handles that fine. And they talk about the stage makeup, but Columbo disabuses Chase of any notion that Ted killed Gerry.
Why is that?
Well, because he's got an alibi.
He then asks Chase if he can think of anyone with a motive, besides himself.
Chase is quite agitated at this question.
Yeah, and Columbo reveals he knows about the argument that outburst after the speaking engagement.
Yeah, but Chase quite reasonably points to the fact that they fell out regularly.
Yeah, this isn't proof of anything.
12 times in the last year they said he'd hired and fired. That's once a month.
So Chase gets up to leave, but he is followed out of the door by Columbo, who has a one more thing.
Oh, Mr. Chase! Excuse me, sir. Just one more thing, sir.
And what would that be?
It's about the files, Mr. Winter's files.
Yes.
I was talking to your daughter, sir, and she told me that most of his files were back at the office and not at your house.
So?
Just curious, sir, if that's true, why you took me back to your house and not the radio station?
Lieutenant, it's true that most of the complete files are back at the radio station. But I knew that my daughter was working there at that time. And forgive me if this sounds cowardly, but I didn't want to be the one to have to tell her what had happened. There's nothing more. You'll excuse me.
Certainly, sir. Sorry to bother you. Thank you. And thanks again for the tea.
Dicey moment there for Chase, I think.
Yeah, but this is the third time now he's handled a obstacle fairly well.
Yeah, well enough. He does it with a bit of self-confession, almost, like he's self-deprecating in the way that he accepts it's a failing of his, but it's not a criminal failing.
Victoria is at a gallery and she's looking around and is approached by Lou, who insists that he wants to represent her and is now working independently.
Yeah, it's a short and sweet scene, and he is trying to persuade her to sign with him. She says her father needs her help right now, and he's going to find her a publisher, and there's a bit of a bust-up.
Yes, she does not react well to Lou's insistence that Chase was responsible for the sabotaging of her deal. I think this scene isn't... No, it's not a scene that's essential, but I think what it does do is it highlights the balance of the relationship. It's not... We understand that Victoria does feel a responsibility or a love or a connection or a pull towards Chase.
Yeah.
So it's showing her side of the story, as it were.
Yeah. We nip over to Chase's office where he's doing something very chancy.
What's that?
Well, he's calling in a favour from another publisher and asking them to reject Vicky's manuscript moments before she walks in the room.
Yes. I think he says that he would be eternally grateful if he could bring himself to despise the manuscript.
Yeah, and moments later, Vicky bursts through the door, furious.
Yes, she is.
But not about that.
No, it's about an unsubstantiated story that is in the...
It's a newsletter of some kind that's going out to fans, I think.
Yes, and her name is on the masthead, so she is in some way responsible for the content, and she does not believe in the content.
She storms out and he chases her and agrees to remove the article till it can be substantiated.
As he walks back to his office, he is surprised to hear what?
This old man being whistled by a sort of scruffy police lieutenant.
Yes, who is in Gerry's office and going through his files.
Yep, and he's got something bothering him.
What's that?
The only case that relates to an actor is the case of Dee Dee Ross.
Okay.
And that really makes the makeup seem like a false trail.
Why?
Because there's no other connection between Gerry and actors for there to be stage makeup involved in the crime.
Sure.
There's a little bit of a kerfuffle here with the smell in the room and the cigar, and it was all a bit silly, so I didn't make too much about that.
Also, but I think, is this the scene where Chase notices that Columbo does not wear a gun?
Possibly, yes. Columbo sets the bin on fire.
He does, yes.
And pours coffee in the bin.
Yeah.
The cleaners are going to be furious.
Absolutely raging. Columbo doesn't care. He's
No,
always dropping things and using ashtrays for eggshells and stuff like that. But, yeah, to go back to the whole point of the scene, not only do they know that it was unlikely that an actor was involved, Columbo believes it was someone who knew Gerry.
Yeah, because nobody else would know to frame an actor.
Yes.
Because he'd only been seeing Ted for a few days. And Chase agrees it would need to be somebody who knew Gerry. And then he gets tripped up.
Yes. Now, this is the first trip, I think. He's had a couple of stumbles before, which he has recovered from. But I quite like this. So, explain...
Yeah, Columbo notes that Chase has been to Gerry's house and he denies it. But Columbo has a photograph. And Chase doubles back, saying, I meant, recently, since he was killed.
Yeah.
Columbo probably takes on this as a suggestion of guilt, because why would he respond in that way?
Yeah. We have another one more thing, and another good response.
I loved it.
Here's the thing, sir. We check phone records as a matter of routine. For example, Mr. Winters, he called the radio station a lot, obviously. Also, Mr. Malloy, also Mr. Luke Caton, literary agent. Oh, and by the way, I spoke to him briefly. He says that he's interested in representing a book written by your daughter.
Would you get to the point?
Sorry, sir. Well, we not only checked out Mr. Winters' phone, sir. We checked out yours.
Mine?
Your house in the mountains out in Malibu. And here's my problem, sir. You said that you spoke with Mr. Winters and that you heard shots. And then when he didn't answer, you called 911. Then you got in your car and you drove to Mr. Winters' house. Well, sir, that's not true. The phone company has no record of your having made a 911 call from your house.
Is that it? Is that your problem? Good Lord, Lieutenant, you waste more time worrying about minutia.
Sir, I don't think it's minutia.
I never said I made the call from the house.
Where did he make it from?
The treehouse.
Well, in the car.
Yeah.
It's not really a treehouse when you think about it.
It's not at all, unless you put wheels on it.
He didn't do that. He calls from the car, and Columbo seems satisfied with that.
Yeah, I like that. Columbo thinks he's got him. I think Columbo genuinely thinks he's got him. And I loved the arrogance and the pleasure that Chase had in delivering the solution to him there.
Yeah. So Columbo can't argue with this. It fits his narrative. It fits the timeline as well for how quickly he got there. Mm-hmm. He has to let Chase leave.
He does. We're back to Chase's house. And this is one of the scenes that I could have done without.
Hated this moment. This was stupid. It totally undermines Columbo's character.
Yeah, what is it?
Well, you've got Chase in the garden shouting up to his housekeeper looking for Vicky, and you hear Columbo's car constantly backfiring at the gate. Columbo, trying to get in, climbs up on the gate and starts screaming and yelling over the gate in a stupid way, and Chase notes to Martha to let him in.
Yeah, I think he calls him a funny little man from the police.
Yeah, I think he's fed up with him.
He is. So Martha shows him in, and she tells Columbo that she doesn't work weekends. So I think this is another trope Isn't it the staff are not around when these things happen?
Yeah, that's not been in it for quite some time, but back in the early days it was quite a heavy thing.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned it a lot.
Yep. So Columbo has to take a cable car thing down to the exercise room, and
I like that. I want one of them. in
yeah,
my
I do.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Chase is working out. He's on an exercise bike.
He's completely fed up, as you said there, with Columbo at this point. He's no time for him whatsoever.
Interesting note: the music that's playing in this scene is the music that plays on the DVD titles for all the season 10 discs. And I had no idea where it came from. And this was I didn't know if it was Fielding Chase's theme or the news show that he was watching's theme. I think it must be off the telly. So there you go. That answered that mystery that I had ever since they started playing it on the DVDs.
Columbo discovers that Chase is watching satellite TV. And the reason for that is that because of the mountains where the house is situated, they can't get a good standard TV signal.
So he says, and that's a wee marble for Columbo to roll around in his head.
Yep.
He asks Chase to turn the sound down on the TV, having remarked it was weird that the time on the telly didn't match his own watch. But that's because Chase is watching East Coast News.
Yeah, that's what leads into the satellite discussion, yeah.
And Columbo, having had the sound turned off, raises a concern.
Yeah, he's got a problem with the killer having a key, and he implies that it doesn't look good for Victoria, as she is the only key holder without an alibi. Apparently she was working alone in the office. Now, I don't believe that. As I mentioned earlier, I don't believe that for a second. I think that could quite easily be substantiated. I think he's doing the All in the Game and Mind Over Mayhem.
That's the exact note I've got. I alluded to that in my summary as well. And Chase does not take the bait.
No.
He simply assures Columbo that his daughter did not kill anyone.
Well, he does more than that. He calls Columbo a fool.
He does.
And he also admits that it was his idea for her to work that day.
Yeah, so she couldn't have set this all up. Columbo is then quite rude, as you mentioned earlier.
In what way?
He challenges Vicky's paternity.
Yeah, this is the ride back up in the cable car.
Yes. And doesn't think she should be called his daughter. That's deeply
terrible.
offensive.
Yes, I would be making a complaint to Columbo's superiors about that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, why? Just because you've adopted somebody or taken them on as your child, should you be forced to designate them your foster child or your stepchild or whatever other name?
It's disgusting. And Chase describes the history of the relationship.
We get the full relationship. He used to be in love with Vicky's mother. He let her go. She married another man and her husband died, and he thought this was his opportunity. But she was also dying. She had terminal cancer, and he promised, in a very sort of Jean Valjean way, to raise Vicky to the light as her lone parent.
Yeah, very good. Chase does not take too kindly to Columbo's continued implication of Victoria in this murder. So he changes tact, does Columbo, and he recalls Victoria misplacing the key on the Saturday.
Yep, and he mentions the arrow pointing very squarely at Chase, who feels the weight of that accusation.
He does.
And asks Columbo to get out of his house.
I can't remember the exact line, but it's along the lines of, you'll understand if I don't wish you a good day or something like that.
Yeah, he's not best pleased right now.
We head back over to the radio studio, and Chase is now on air with the senator, the one who he is planning to tear a new one. Yeah,
and he, in a break, asks Vicky to put a particular caller through, and she's not happy with that idea.
That is fairly naive. I would have thought that these things happen all the time.
I would be surprised if it wasn't constant.
Yeah, you manipulate the callers to suit.
Any call-in show that you want to name, they have an agenda.
Yeah, be it TV or the radio or podcasting, it doesn't matter.
Even the audiences at things like Question Time or whatever else, there is a reason that certain people are called on to speak.
Yeah.
It's to make it entertaining rather than to make it informative.
Columbo arrives and is given short shrift by Chase. But apparently he wants to apologise.
Yeah. Chase goes back into the studio and Vicky's left to talk to Columbo.
Mm-hmm. Although we do find out that Chase had called the mayor, who called the commissioner, who called his captain, and Columbo got a severe dressing down.
And he also learned that the first task was dragons.
Is that some sort of Hobbit reference?
It's the fourth Harry Potter movie.
Why was that? I don't understand.
Because Ron and Harry had fallen out, and Ron wanted to give Harry information, so he told a friend.
Be
who told another
quiet, be
friend.
quiet, be quiet. Harry Potter, grow up.
I'm not saying I watched it last week. I did, but that's not the point.
You want a bit of Maniac Cop 3?
I thought Maniac Cop 2 was the one I wanted.
Oh, you want 1 and 2. Maniac Cop 3 with Maniac Kate, where he gets a bride.
I don't even want to start on this nonsense. I'll stick to my wizards and dragons.
Yep.
Anyhow, Chase goes back in the studio, and Vicky chats a little bit to Columbo and notes that Chase has been under a bit of stress of late.
And Columbo watches the interview from the corridor through these glass panes as the call is put through.
Yeah, it's Collier. He comes on and he makes it very clear that he knows what he's saying. He doesn't like Chase very much, but this senator's a piece of work, and he raises Dee Dee Ross.
Yes. Victoria, realising what has happened, gets up and leaves in disgust.
Yeah, the senator gets tied in knots, essentially admitting his guilt. Or at least casting enough doubt on it through his kind of shaky responses that people who want to believe he's guilty are able to do that.
Yeah, the job again is done. Mud sticks, as they say.
That's the one.
Chase has no intention of having to prove something. As long as he smears this person, then that's enough.
That's the one.
Chase returns that night and he goes to Victoria's bedroom to try and appease her, make up with her. She is not interested.
She wants him to leave her alone. And the next time we see him, he is waking the next morning in his suit in his living room.
Yeah, he's not been to bed.
He's obviously been stressing about this.
Mm-hmm. He sees Lou arrive, and Victoria has packed her bags. She is leaving to make it on her own.
Yeah, they both apologise to one another for their conduct the night before.
He tries to prevent her at first from leaving, but she now appears to realise the truth, or understand that things aren't very healthy in this relationship.
Yeah. She doesn't want to fight with him, but because he's forbidding her and he's desperate and he starts to threaten Lou, she is not swayed.
But he looks desperate as they leave, doesn't he? I mean,
he's absolutely distraught.
Really. While we're talking about Lou, he was played by Richard Klein. He was born in 1944. He has been in Three's Company, NYPD Blue, The Nanny, Married with Children, LA Law, Matlock, and Murder, She Wrote. But I think most interestingly, he was struck by lightning in Vietnam whilst in the military.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
You avoid all the bullets and you get hit by lightning.
Shocking. Things get worse for Chase.
Yeah, Columbo's broken into his house.
Apparently.
Through the patio. And he explains that the murder trail leads to Chase, and he knows for a fact Chase killed Winters.
Yeah, Chase tries to scare him off a little bit half-heartedly by saying he'll call the chief of police.
Yeah. Columbo's not dissuaded at this point. He's set in his course.
Yeah, and he says that he knows why he killed Gerry.
He does.
Is that the thing that you think's missing?
In what sense? The real motive?
Yeah, it's very nebulous. Yeah.
I think that is what it is. It just didn't quite click.
The guy wasn't a... Yeah, there was no real... I think that's what it is. Because I did have the same feeling. There was something that wasn't quite there, and it wasn't a strong, obvious motive where you say, yeah, understand why. It wasn't for money.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. Why would killing Gerry achieve what he wanted? It's a short-term fix.
Very short-term fix.
It's a major action to take for that short-term fix.
I think we've got to the bottom of that.
Quandary. Yeah. Anyway, one thing leads to another, and they're off for a road trip.
Well, Columbo claims that he has a witness who says that he was offered $10,000 to kill Gerry. Now, this is obviously garbage, so Chase agrees to head down to LAPD to have it out. I mean, I don't think you do that anyway, do you? But apparently to have it out with this guy making this crazy accusation.
Chase also not as smart as he thinks he is.
No.
He's buying this.
Yeah. So they get into Chase's car.
They do.
They're driving down the hillside when they come across a cycling accident.
A staged accident.
And when they stop, we see one of the cyclists, supposed cyclists, interfere with Chase's car, causing it to break down. Now, that was a little bit convoluted. Surely they could have... The whole point is that Chase needs to phone the AAA, the breakdown services. Now, why couldn't they have just asked to use Chase's phone for the injured man or woman?
Could have done that. Also, what is it you can do with a spanner or a wrench in 4 seconds that makes the car stop?
It might have been plier. No, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe some mechanics in the audience can let us know what it would be that guy did to the car.
Point is, he does something, the car breaks down, and the cyclists depart. They decide to, or Columbo suggests that Chase call the breakdown service.
Yeah.
But he has a problem.
What's that?
You tell me.
The engine won't start.
No, that is why
Wait,
they're making
no,
a call.
hang on. After that, he's got no signal.
Correct.
And essentially that's the gotcha, but they do take a good 5 minutes to get to the point.
Well, Columbo explains why not having a signal is a problem for Chase.
Just a second, sir. Didn't you say? Yes, you did. You said when you left your house, after you heard the shots, you called 911 from your car, but how could you call from here? You can't get a signal through.
That's because I didn't call from this spot. It was further up the road.
Well, I don't see how, sir, given the time frame. It had to be somewhere around here. And just to be sure, I came out yesterday afternoon with, like I said, this. And I tried here, and I tried a mile down that way, and another mile up that way. It doesn't make any difference. No matter where you call from on this whole road, you can't get through.
You're wrong, Lieutenant.
No, sir, I'm not wrong. You were nowhere near this place on the day of the killing.
I suppose we could debate that. But frankly, I think it would be a lot more productive if we got some tools and tried to get the engine started.
We see as Chase goes to the trunk under the pretense of getting tools that he's actually going for a weapon.
This is madness.
Yeah, what's he going to do? Shoot the cop again? We've had this before.
His car doesn't work, he's not going to get away. What do you think? It's like, well, I'm going down, you're coming with me.
I think that's it, isn't it? You made a very good point there. Let's say he does shoot Columbo dead and then legs it himself. So Columbo's left beside the body. Columbo's body's left beside his car. I suppose you could drag the body, couldn't you, into the trunk and dump it somewhere.
You can't, because the car's stuck.
You could put the car, you put the body in the trunk.
You put the body in the driver's seat, release the handbrake and push it off the side of the road. But they still find the bullet wound.
Yeah, you don't really want Columbo's body associated with you. You could do a weekend at Bernie's. You could just have...
prop him up.
Prop him up, say he's really tired.
Just go and say one more thing.
Backup arrives.
Columbo hits the horn in the car and the cyclists from the accident all come back and they all happen to be police.
And Chase understands the setup. And he eventually appreciates that he may have misread Columbo.
Yeah, he's been bested.
Yep, and he's led away in cuffs.
And that music plays again on the end credits.
Does it?
Yeah.
There we have it.
I would say it's in the top 2 Shatner appearances.
Definitely in the top 2.
Not number 1, I would say probably number 2. But interestingly, not as hammy. So that showed that it was, like we said at that previous occasion, it was a deliberate decision to ham it up and fade into murder for the character.
Although there is a fair amount of ham in this, to be fair.
There's nothing like the amount of ham that there is in Fade into Murder.
Correct. I think he's just one of these guys. As you know, I'm not a Star Trek fan, but I do enjoy William Shatner, and for me he's T.J. Hooker. But he's just one of these guys who is enjoyable to watch. His overacting, his performances, his delivery. It's I can understand why people might not enjoy it, why it might be irritating, but I love it.
Yeah, he always comes across to me as a guy who enjoys acting and who enjoys the roles that he's given and is... What's the best way to put it?
Well, he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah, he doesn't take himself too seriously, but he's an intelligent actor as well. He understands what they want from him.
Yeah. I think these days they want William Shatner, and he's happy to give it. He's not one of these guys who is going to knock back. He doesn't want to be typecast or that type of thing where he's too precious about his art.
Yeah.
He knows what he does well these days. He knows what people expect from him, and he's happy to say, yeah, if that's what you want, I'll give you it.
He wasn't always. If you watch his documentary, I think The Captains, he talks about how both he and Leonard Nimoy, who wrote an autobiography called I Am Not Spock, struggled post Star Trek with being too closely connected to that character before coming to accept it as something to be proud of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mentioned before, I've read a couple of Shatner books.
Yeah.
Up until now, I think it's certainly one of them. Fantastic read.
There you go.
Good fun.
Episode review or more production notes? What we at?
A little bit of production information, I think, here. 10th of January 1994. I think at the 88-minute length.
Or thereby.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to bring this one up. If you look at the IMDb information, it differs if you're on the desktop compared to mobile.
It's bad programming.
It's dreadful. I'm going to have to send a very stern email to the boffins at IMDb.
Or a letter.
Or, it won't be a letter.
Okay.
I don't have any parchment. Yeah, if you check it on the desktop, it's the 10th of January 1994, which is the same date given on the Wikipedia page. But there's a different date, I think it's the 6th of November 93, which is shown on an iPad and my Android phone.
Interesting.
So I'm trying to get my head round. I would have thought that they've used the same database, but anyway, that's another discussion. I've noticed this before. There are a couple of things. The running time on desktop and mobile is different. It's shown in a different format, and it doesn't always add up.
Yeah.
So it's bad.
We've moved to that before.
We have not that. So it's bad form by IMDb. I think most of my to be honest, I think most of my dates are taken from desktop.
Okay.
So they should be fine.
Fingers crossed.
The director,
Okay.
a Mr. Dennis Dugan.
We've heard that name
Oh,
before.
we have. He was Mac
Yes.
in Commodore.
This is his return, and it's much better.
Yeah, and we did mention in that episode that he went on to be a successful, if not critically acclaimed director. Worked a lot with Adam Sandler, I think.
He did. Although Adam Sandler was not in this episode.
Fortunately not. And another recurring regular, Peter S. Fisher, was the writer. This is his 8th of 9.
He did some good ones.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll give him some credit. He's not a Jackson Gillis, that's for sure.
That is for sure. A little bit of trivia. Let me see what I have here. Apparently, near the beginning of the episode, Chase wears the tie given to Columbo by Faye Dunaway.
Really?
Yep.
That's a good one.
And Chase's home was sold in 2005 for $22 million, and it belonged to the actress, singer, beauty queen, Linda Thompson, who was a lover of Elvis Presley and was previously married to Bruce Jenner. Now, Bruce Jenner is now Caitlyn Jenner. You'll be familiar with all that, yeah?
Yes.
The Kardashians and what have you, yeah. So, yeah, Jenner was the American equivalent, I suppose, of Daley Thompson.
Decathlete.
Yeah, very successful. And I have mentioned before that Bruce Jenner was in an episode of Murder, She Wrote, about American football episode
Right,
with
yes.
Dick Butkus.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good name, Butkus.
Episode review. Motive.
Self-interest, I guess, we'll put it in, but it was kind of vague.
Yeah, prevent Gerry from removing his control over Victoria.
But it wasn't, it was weirdly expressed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alibi.
He was at his house on the phone.
Good
It was
alibi.
a good alibi.
Clues. Here we go. The public threat to Gerry. Knowing that Gerry was shot in the back. The missing key. Chase asking Victoria to work the weekend. The apparent framing of Ted. His initial denial of being in Gerry's house. Martha not working the weekend. And the lack of signal in the mountains.
All fair and reasonable.
Gotcha.
Lack of signal again up the hill, that was fine. Although, it would have been nice if they'd used cell tower pings to place him at a different location.
Not sure if the technology existed to track that back then.
Who knows?
And of course, him reaching for a gun.
Yeah, it was a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah. Next week we have Undercover.
The season 12 finale.
It is indeed.
So we're a fortnight away from the final season of Columbo.
We are. That's us for another week, Ian.
Yeah, a wee reminder for folks, if they've got questions for our upcoming potential question and answer show, get them over to us, either through iTunes reviews, we like it that way, or Twitter, Facebook, in the usual places, or through columbopodcast.com, preferably on the most recent show at the time that you visit the site. It's the easiest way to catch us, but we will keep an eye on older posts as well.
That's us, I think.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Columbo podcast from Heard Yet Media.